Order.
Lakut Tadlimang me, Sibulong me. I will speak in ineptitude, followed by the English version. Guti ko yun na may uwan niya kataw kata. Sa manong miktuniyaw yung maluta. Amalo isumaliw tunik tini uwan ni sanginang miktuniyaw kataw luta. Tukilew ko tiga kataw na akatigo kanuliw kaya kang nitinun. Maligalew tilo. Tagvani inokote mining kigatu yaka ngaming inokote mini ikaw may nakataon na kulugit piu yunig sakit iti bale yung nakuluta ko yun na mertuwa na yi. O Creator, thank you for this day before us. I would like to pray that you bless the MLAs and the ministers and that we show peace and harmony and unity amongst ourselves and all our people, that we aim to find resolutions and solutions for the concerns that touch our people, and at the same time that we find ways to be humble enough to accept we have strengths and we have weaknesses, and that you keep blessing us to remember to think about others and what we're here for. And I hope you bless all the leaders here, because their jobs are very difficult at times. They can be very emotional, and it gives us peace to know that we can always try to come back together and try to find harmony and answers for our people that you represent. I pray for these senses of wisdom from our Creator today as we face a new day. Amen.
Thank you very much, Susie. Now you cook. Please sit. Please be seated. Colleagues, before we get going here, I want to talk a couple things. One, when we're asking questions, short preamble. Second and third questions to the point. Ministers, short and precise answers, please, so we can all work together for the people of the Northwest Territories. So thank you. Member from Hay River South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask for unanimous consent to move to item 5, which is recognition of visitors in the gallery. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Hay River South. Member from Hay River South has asked unanimous consent to move number 5 up in the orders of the day. Hearing no nays, you may. Member from Hay River North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to be joined today by the grade 6ers from Hay River. They've been touring Yellowknife and having a great time, and we're happy to have them here in the Legislative Assembly. So I would like to recognize, along with my colleague who will be reading the rest of the names, Hendrix Jones, Sophie Norn Cardinal, Alea Sabern, Bailey McPherson, Chaslyn Lafleur, Kaylin Lockhart, Ray McKay Harris, Trent Sanguez, Isla Dean, Dinah Earl, McCoy Fraser, Jeremy Graham, Lexi Lafferty, Seamus Russell, and Addison Smith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Hay River North. Member from Hay River South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to also recognize the grade 6 students from Hay River: Maya Taylor Dumas, Jackson Thomas, Benjamin Well, Jackson Zebedick, Pariah Abar, Scarlett Robillard, Emily Latour, Eleanor Bassett, and their chaperone, Charisse Bouchard, chaperones and teachers, Charisse Bouchard, Stephanie Hayes, Adam Smith, Jillian Zebedick, and their drivers taking them home safely this afternoon, Daniel Perron and Nicole Klaus. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Hay River South. It's great to see these young people here. I appreciate you coming into our beautiful facility and seeing the Capitol. And I'd just like to recognize Mr. Danny, a former partner on the wrestling mat. He was the guy that beat me up all the time. So I thank you very much for being here. Hey, Range Lake, Yellowknife Center, you be quiet. Anyway, so thank you very much for being here, and we appreciate having an audience here today. Minister statements. Minister for Municipal and Community Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as we move further into the high-risk season for flooding and wildfires, the Government of Northwest Territories is taking every step to ensure we are ready for emergencies, with the capacity to respond swiftly, coordinate effectively, and work collaboratively with our partners to protect the safety and well-being of NWT residents and the communities. In recent years, our territory has witnessed the impacts of the changing climate and has faced increasingly severe and frequent emergencies, including wildfires and floods, and evacuations have become part of our collective experience. In 2023, the wildfire season, the most significant in our history, tested our systems, stretched our capacity, and placed immense strain on the residents and responders alike. It was a season that highlighted both the strength and the urgent need to continue improving how we all prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies. As we continue into 2025 emergency season, I know some residents are feeling anxious and concerned. I want to reassure you that the Government of Northwest Territories has taken significant steps to prepare for the weeks and months ahead. Our emergency management system has been strengthened through additional training, coordination, and planning efforts at all levels. We are investing in our people, partnership, and preparedness. The Department of Municipal and Community Affairs has supported community governments across the territory who are in lead in emergency response activities by updating their community emergency plans. Community planning workshops and tabletop exercises have been delivered in every region. These exercises bring together leaders, first responders, and the Government of Northwest Territories staff to practice emergency scenarios, validate the plans, and clarify responsibilities. These exercises are a vital test of how we function and respond in high-pressure situations. The Government of Northwest Territories has also invested in building an internal surge capacity to support communities when emergencies strike. Currently, there are 137 staff members on the Emergency Management Organization Surge Capacity list. Staff are encouraged to sign up to assist during emergencies when called upon. As of last month, 106 staff received Incident Command System training, or ICS training, ranging from ICS 100 to ICS 400. This training ensures that when emergencies occur, trained personnel are available and ready to support response operations across the Northwest Territories. Mr. Speaker, emergency preparedness is not only the job of the Government of the Northwest Territories, but also a shared responsibility. That is why the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs launched the Be Ready campaign in 2025. This public awareness initiative helps residents understand risks and take practical steps to prepare for emergencies. The campaign encourages people to build or check their 72-hour emergency kits, speak to their insurance providers, and develop household emergency plans. My personal emergency plan and emergency kit was shared on a video on my Facebook page earlier in May. While we focused on the present, we are also building for the future. Earlier this month, an independent after-action review of the 2023 wildfire emergency response was released. This review was conducted by a third party with an oversight from representatives for the Governor Northwest Territories, Indigenous governments, and members of the House. The after-action review is not intended to assign blame. Rather, it aims to identify opportunities to improve that will benefit the residents, the responders, and the future of our communities. It provides a detailed assessment of the emergency response efforts to the numerous wildfires during the 2023 season, and it outlines a path forward with clear recommendations. The Government Northwest Territories will respond to the recommendations in the report, many of which have already been identified from lessons learned and have been implemented. Several of these recommendations are already shaping our work to improve our emergency preparedness, response, and recovery efforts, including enhanced training, updating emergency planning tools, improved coordination with Indigenous governments, and modernized financial assistance policies. Mr. Speaker, the Government Northwest Territories is prepared for the 2025 flood and wildfire season. We have strengthened our systems, trained our people, and reinforced our partnerships. We are encouraging and supporting residents to act through the Be Ready campaign. This is how we build a safe and more resilient community in the Northwest Territories. Be prepared together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Minister statements. Minister for ITI.
Mr. Speaker, the Northwest Territories is proud to serve as chair of the Committee on Internal Trade this year, at a time when Canada's economic unity, supply chain resilience, and competitiveness are more important than ever. We may be a small jurisdiction, Mr. Speaker, but we're punching above our weight. You know what they say, never waste a good crisis, and we are not. I'm proud of the sustained efforts of provinces, territories, and the federal government to reduce internal trade barriers and build a stronger, more connected economy. This work is about ensuring that every part of the country, including the North, can fully participate and thrive. Improving internal trade is not just about regulatory alignment. It is about building economies, supporting businesses, creating jobs, reducing costs, and improving access to goods and services for people in every region. For the North, where infrastructure gaps, high transportation costs, and limited year-round access to communities are major challenges, the stakes are especially high. Earlier this year, the Committee on Internal Trade submitted a consensus-based package of recommendations to Canada's First Ministers. These included reducing party-specific exceptions under the Canada Free Trade Agreement and concluding negotiations on financial services, improving labour mobility, advancing mutual recognitions of goods, and supporting new approaches to domestic trade promotion and direct-to-consumer alcohol sales. These recommendations were endorsed by First Ministers in February. Since then, we've seen meaningful progress. 5 governments have identified more than 40 trade exceptions they are prepared to eliminate, and they continue to work on more. Work is underway to integrate financial services into the Canada Free Trade Agreement. Jurisdictions have agreed to push regulatory alignment that ensures that if consumer product, excluding food, is approved in one part of Canada, it can be sold in another part without needing to go through the regulatory process all over again. This is the kind of practical change that makes a difference for businesses, workers, and consumers. Mr. Speaker, the Northwest Territories has been a strong voice at the table. We have worked to ensure that the perspectives of northern and remote regions with developing economies and infrastructure gaps are reflected throughout this process. That includes advancing sector-specific work like mutual recognition pilot project in the trucking sector, which was announced following last year's CIT meeting. Earlier this month, the Northern Premiers agreed to explore the creation of a territorial trade zone. This would respect modern treaties and land claims while promoting economic opportunities across the North. It is an exciting development, and we look forward to continuing that work with Indigenous governments and industry. As Chair, I have approached this work with the same values that guide our work in this House: collaboration, respect, and consensus. We may come from different regions with different priorities, but we have shown that when governments work together, progress is possible and is happening. Mr. Speaker, labour mobility is a key part of this effort. In March, First Ministers tasked the committee with working alongside the Forum of Labour Market Ministers to improve the movement of workers across the country. This is a clear priority for the Northwest Territories. We know that healthy communities depend on strong populations and strong workforces. While we have relatively few formal barriers to labour mobility, we do not yet have legislation that formally supports these principles. That is why we will be working directly with regulatory bodies here in the NWT to make sure national goals are implemented in ways that reflect our unique context. At the same time, I want to be clear, our remaining trade exceptions are carefully scoped. They support our economic development, Arctic sovereignty, and recovery from climate-related impacts. They also reflect the fact that the territories face amplified challenges compared to provinces, including smaller and more vulnerable industries and significant infrastructure gaps. Mr. Speaker, strengthening internal trade does not mean ignoring regional realities. It means working together to move forward in a way that supports all regions fairly and equitably. Economic growth in the territories is essential to Canada's long-term success. Our government will continue to work with local industry, regulatory bodies, and Indigenous governments to make sure Northerners have a voice in this work and a stake in the solutions. At a time when external trade pressures are growing, including risks of new tariffs on Canadian goods, strengthening trade within our own country is more important than ever. As the chair of the Committee on Internal Trade, I remain committed to advancing real and lasting change for the Northwest Territories and for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of ITI. Minister statements. Minister statements. Member statements. Member from Yellowknife North.
Mr. Speaker, at the end of March, I attended the Renewables in Remote Communities Conference in Whitehorse, and today I'd like to share a few of my takeaways, especially around promising renewable energy and energy efficiency initiatives being led by northern and remote communities. One thing that may be of interest is that Arctic Energy Alliance has produced some brand new mini books and flashcards with words and terms related to energy that are translated into several Indigenous languages. Hopefully we can get those books to our interpreters here at the Ledge. It became clear that out of all of the territories and provinces represented at the conference, the NWT is the furthest behind in that we are the last ones to come up with a policy on independent power producers, which communities have been asking for a long time. This is important because many Indigenous development corporations and communities would like to own the assets to be able to produce their own renewable energy and then sell that power to the Power Corporation or the GNWT. Another policy change that's long overdue is increasing the current cap of 20% on intermittent renewable generation. What I learned, though, is how communities such as Inuvik have been getting around this restrictive cap by helping to stabilize their system with more battery energy storage. Inuvik is the territory's biggest non-hydro community, and I was pleasantly surprised to learn it has well over 150% penetration with renewable technologies such as solar and wind. I also heard loud and clear that for these community-led renewable energy projects to be sustainable, we need more federal funding to support operations, not just capital. And the GNWT needs to fund more training for community members to install and maintain and repair the energy technologies, because it doesn't do any good to invest money in shiny new technology that sits there broken or unused. I met with the Gwich'in company Dinjiju Solutions, which is aiming to set a new standard for sustainable housing and reduce home heating costs. They've already completed energy audits on 36 homes and retrofits on 5 homes in Fort McPherson, and they're looking to scale up to retrofit 120 homes over 5 years. They're looking to overcome challenges in getting contractors and materials by establishing local training programs and a centralized material hub. Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to conclude my statement.
You member from Yellowknife North. The member from Yellowknife North is seeking unanimous consent to conclude her statement. Seeing no nays, you may conclude your statement.
Thanks to my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, the NWT has a lot of catching up to do when it comes to renewable energy, but we have no shortage of passion and energy in our communities to drive it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North. Member statements. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I tend to write out my statements in advance as a way to collect my thoughts. I'm going to do it a little bit differently today with bullets. It's so I can speak a little bit better from my heart and my experience. So with the release of the after-action review, it's pretty clear to me that we have a long ways to go to become a more people-centric government. And I think that that's always a goal that will always exist. In speaking with my constituents, there is less of a desire now for a formal public inquiry after those two after-action reviews have been conducted by both ECC and EIA and MACA. That said, I do understand and respect for some residents that closure has not come and may never come. The after-action review that was released recently details this in extensive amounts as to why. We as a territory need to heal from this collective trauma. We, at least I can speak for myself, have been compartmentalizing, and that doesn't really work in the long term. There's still a desire to see officials express regret for missteps and ownership for actions that could have gone much better. I specifically want to thank certain people in the public service. That would be Aggie, Emily, Jay, Jennifer, and Mike, but also many more who didn't have a public face and didn't interact with the media in daily briefings. Thank you to all those who redeployed in that chaos, especially those who tried their best to help fellow residents at evacuation centers while they were evacuees themselves. Thank you especially to all of our firefighters and support staff who faced down a freight train of wildfire. And thank you very much to my ECC family and the loss that we all experienced of a firefighter on that year. Mr. Speaker, it is an emotional topic. It's a heavy topic, but I will have questions for the Premier later today. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Great Slave. Member statements. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to take the opportunity today to further highlight the Standing Committee on Economic Development and Environment's report on the review of land use permitting and water licensing regulatory framework in the Northwest Territories. Mr. Speaker, our Cabinet, through their mandate commitment, one of their commitments is to ensure regulatory systems and decision-making are consistent, efficient, and predictable. Mr. Speaker, when Cabinet released those commitments, I committed back to push them on those commitments, to push them on the mandate, and to focus my work on doing what I can to help achieve those commitments. Mr. Speaker, I also spoke previously in the Assembly to the concept of red tape and how, when speaking about our regulatory system, there was often a lot of criticism about the red tape that people had to cut through. But I found that those conversations tended to focus on either fundamental changes or removal of the system altogether, and didn't get into the weeds of figuring out what's wrong with the system and what needs to be improved to change it. Knowing that the system is not going anywhere, Mr. Speaker, the regulatory system in the Northwest Territories is foundationally rooted in land claims, and we've learned through court challenges that the system is not going anywhere. And so we needed to cut through the fog of this discussion and identify what's not working and why, and lay out a path for change. Mr. Speaker, I believe that Standing Committee's report does just that. And I'm particularly proud of this work and want to echo the comments made by the member for Yellowknife Centre yesterday, thanking our excellent staff for their work on this report. Mr. Speaker, if fully implemented, I think this report could lead to significant positive change. Certainly, no single report is going to be a panacea, but the recommendations in here lay out a path in a very complex system for changes that could be made, tangible changes that could lead us to a more efficient, more meaningful participation in a regulatory system that's working better. So I'm particularly proud of it, wanted to take this opportunity today to highlight it, and to just highlight it for Cabinet and note that I am going to be holding you to account for implementation of this report, and we'll continue to pressure the ministers, the relevant ministers on it, and look forward to doing that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Frame Lake. Member statements. Member from Satu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the week of May the 5th to the 9th, a Satu tour took place to discuss the critical issues of food security and food sovereignty in our region. We met with local leaders, elders, community members who generously shared their thoughts, concerns, innovative ideas about addressing affordability. Mr. Speaker, these meetings were a huge success with participation from community members, leaders, investing in finding sustainable solutions. The discussions were heartfelt and productive, touching on traditional harvesting practices, modern food distribution challenges, and potential collaborative approaches. I would like to personally thank Food Banks Canada, Nutrition North, and Cisco Canada for their traveling to our remote Satu communities and for their commitment to understand our unique northern challenges. Their expertise and willingness to listen to community voices were invaluable to the success of the tour. I also want to express my sincere appreciation to CBC and Cabin Radio for their excellent media coverage throughout the tour. Their thoughtful reporting highlighted the significant hardships that are faced in the communities, including the extremely high cost of food, limited access to fresh produce, and the importance of traditional food in maintaining cultural connections. I'd also like to extend my special thanks to Buffalo Airways for providing their chartered services. Their discounted rate for the charter made it possible for our diverse group to visit all Satu communities despite the vast distances between them. Mr. Speaker, the community members and leaders in the communities came together, shared their personal experiences with food insecurity, and asked thoughtful questions about how they can realize food security. The discussions, Mr. Speaker, I request an extension to conclude my statement.
Thank you, member from the Satu. The member from the Satu is asking unanimous consent to conclude his statement. Seeing no nays, member from the Satu, you may conclude your statement.
Masicho colleagues, the questions revealed a strong desire to blend traditional knowledge with modern solutions, creating food systems that are culturally appropriate, environmentally sustainable, and economically viable for our communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And now the work begins on logistics.
You're here. Thank you, member from the Satu. Colleagues, before we continue with member statements, I'd like to recognize members of the Office of the Auditor General of Canada's team that are here in relation to the publication of the Auditor General's report on protected and conserved areas in the Northwest Territories. And I apologize to the people if I say your name wrong. Jerry DeMarco, Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Environment. Carrie Anu, Principal Auditor. Emily Ann Duvall, Director, Territorial Liaison. Welcome to the Assembly, and thank you for your work. Member statements. Member from Inuvik-Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last September, the NWT's new extended health care benefits policy took effect, replacing the old specified disease condition program with an income-based model that now covers drugs, medical supplies, dental care, and vision care for everyone who qualifies. The program requires residents to register and go through an income testing process. I am hearing, Mr. Speaker, from some residents in my community that they are unaware of the Extended Health Benefits Program, which begs the question, Mr. Speaker, how is this program being communicated to those residents who need it most? The Minister has told us that her department is monitoring uptake and refining the application process. I am curious about how that work is going and if the department is seeing any indications that certain pockets or demographics are being missed in their efforts to boost enrollment in this program. Are they seeing any gaps that may reflect challenges for residents with the new income-tested deductibles or confusion about eligibility requirements? Clear communication and targeted outreach are critical to make sure no one is left without the benefits they need. Another concern, Mr. Speaker, is related to medical travel. Under the old SDC program, eligible residents were covered for travel for insured health services. However, medical travel is administered under the NWT medical travel policy, which created a duplication. Mr. Speaker, I understand the Minister is working on modernizing and simplifying the medical travel program, and I wonder if any consideration has been given to folding the medical travel policy into the extended health benefits framework. This could streamline administration, align cost-sharing rules, and give residents one pathway to essential health benefits. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll have questions for the Minister of Health later.
Thank you, member from Nunavut Lake. Member statements. Member from Decho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Access to health care and addressing the effects of trauma is a priority of this Assembly. Mr. Speaker, yesterday my colleague, the member for Yellowknife North, touched on health promotion and well-being in our small communities, which is an issue I have raised in the past and something I am passionate about. We have people living with diabetes or cancer, with cancer. Reliable health information can be life-changing and life-saving. Other people need information about quitting smoking, prevention, nutrition, getting active, sexual health, and education about substance abuse. Across the territory, and especially in small communities, we have high rates of alcohol use, smoking, chronic diseases, and sexually transmitted infections. Mr. Speaker, this all needs to change. These rates need to go down or our health system will become even more burdened with it than it currently is. During the fall session, the Minister of Health and Social Services said the community health representative, in collaboration with the Department of Health and the RCMP, had a campaign going on for illicit drugs. The current approach seems to be that the CHRs assess needs in the communities and then design programs based on those needs. I want to know what campaigns are in place in my riding to reach our youth, adults, and elders so that they can be aware of health issues, their risks, and how to manage them. Mr. Speaker, I've said it before many times. I would like to see people being healthy, informed, and thriving. I do not want small communities to get left behind. I will have questions for the Minister at the appropriate time. Merci.
Thank you, member from the Decho. Member statements. Member from Range Lake.
Mr. Speaker, for many Northerners lacking access to a family doctor, the emergency room, once a last resort, has now become the only option for care. Month after month, I hear from constituents in Range Lake enduring 6 to 10-hour wait times for emergency room treatments that should be routine. How can we reasonably expect our doctors and nurses to provide safe and timely emergency care when their volume of patient overflows month after month thanks to gridlocks, cancellations, understaffing, alongside the alarming lack of access to primary care? Yet year after year, the Health and Social Services has failed to reflect these realities in its reports and statistics. Now the Minister suddenly insists that the ER will remain open by any means necessary, but so far her solutions amount to little more than adjusting shift schedules for a workforce already stretched to its limit without meaningful input from the professionals on the ground. If the Minister were to truly consult with frontline staff, she would hear unequivocally that Stanton requires at least a dozen more emergency physicians, yet currently only 2 are in place. And it doesn't stop there. The need is urgent for unit clerks, mental health nurses, care coordinators, social workers, lab assistants, and personnel to support elders and individuals struggling with addictions. When pressed on how she intends to reach appropriate staffing levels, the answer appears to be a revolving door of temporary workers, staff who must be constantly trained and oriented, and who lack the necessary experience to respond to life-threatening emergencies such as strokes or cardiac arrests. This, Mr. Speaker, is not health care. This is chaos. And concerns about even further deterioration in our system are not hypothetical. They are the reality we've witnessed for far too long. Last week, the minister stood in a public forum and claimed that the Northwest Territories is the best place in Canada to get sick and seek treatment, even as she admitted that residents cannot book a primary care appointment and in many cases can't even get someone to answer the phone.
Shame.
If the minister cannot come before this chamber with a serious, credible plan, grounded in staff consultation, focused on real capacity building, then, Mr. Speaker, we may not have an emergency room at all this summer. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Member statements. Member from Wolfley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about how we work in collaboration for the people of the Northwest Territories. The nature of our job as elected official is to be strong voice for the people we represent. Mr. Speaker, the interpreters behind us are elders, and they watch over us when we are in this House. Also, the elders from our home communities are also watching us. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you, our elders may not be registered psychologists or psychiatrists or psychoanalysts and analysts, but our elders have the knowledge and life experience to lead our communities in good times and bad. In our consensus government, my colleagues and I come together and make decisions that will have an effect on the lives of the residents of the Northwest Territories. Mr. Speaker, we must think about our elders as we do this work. They should always be respected and cared for. I believe it is important for all of us as members of the Legislative Assembly to look to the elders as an example of how we interact with each other when we are in this House. Mr. Speaker, people in the Northwest Territories are our priority, and we need to work together for the benefit of all. Our elders teach us how to be responsible and respectful. Mr. Speaker, I have recently learned that the Legislative Assembly has an Elder on-site program. Members and staff can join an elder for quiet reflection, tea, and conversations in the tent behind this building. Mr. Speaker, this program is similar to JNWT initiative like the Elders in Schools program. I would like to see more programs with elders in our public spaces, and I strongly encourage members to visit with the elders at the Assembly. I will have a question for the Minister of Education, Culture and Employment at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Wolfley. Member statements. Member from Tooele-Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the non-insured health benefit NHIB program is a fundamental right for all eligible First Nations in and across Canada. For many of my constituents, it serves as a critical safety net, particularly in emergencies where public or private insurance falls short. NHIB provides essential services, including medical transportation, when they are needed the most. However, I would like to bring attention to a recent case where the delivery of these benefits failed one of my constituents. While traveling in Alberta, a constituent of mine became seriously ill and was hospitalized as this was a personal trip and not a medical travel. They were deemed ineligible for medical transportation benefits. Compounding the issue, they did not have travel insurance. Recognizing that NHIB could apply in this urgent situation, my office immediately began working to secure access to these benefits. Unfortunately, due to jurisdictional and administration barriers between Alberta and Northwest Territories, we face significant delays in Alberta. Physicians could not initiate the NHIB process. This has had to come from our own department in Health and Social Services. Yet, because the patients were hospitalized outside the NWT, the NTHSSA was unaware of this condition. As a result, we spent over 2 weeks navigating these barriers to access a service that should have been readily available. Ultimately, coordination was achieved, and I want to thank the Minister and NTHSSA for their efforts along with NHIB staff, but the delay caused substantial emotional and financial strain for a family that should have been focused on supporting their loved one. Mr. Speaker, this cannot happen again. We must ensure that NHIB services are available immediately and seamlessly, regardless of location. I urge that NTHSSA to review this case, provide appropriate training, and develop protocols to prevent similar situations in the future. I look forward to working with the Minister to make this reality. I would have questions of the Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Trinidad-Willowdale. Member statements. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Healthcare is what I'm going to talk to the House today. Mr. Speaker, we have a great system, best system, some of the best people, Mr. Speaker, but all systems have their challenges. So, Mr. Speaker, when we talk about the heroic efforts that the nurses face or challenge every day, we're great appreciators of what they do. Mr. Speaker, often they're treated as the only people we talk about in the system, but they are the symbol of the system in the way we chat about them. Let us not forget there are many people that support this system, such as personal support workers, admins, techs, and the list goes on. So when we speak about nurses, sometimes we tend to forget to mention the other names, so I don't want people to feel we don't think about them. They are on top of mind. Mr. Speaker, but like every great system, a hospital is similar to what I would describe as the game Jenga. You can only put so many stresses and challenges on the system before it tumbles down. Nurses are on the vanguard of our health care system, Mr. Speaker, and often we talk about them in a way of being the first ones that we see to receive our health care. But I often wonder, no matter how many health care czars we hire from far and wide, Mr. Speaker, will they get to the root of some of these challenges our system is facing? Mr. Speaker, it seems to be that we're giving glazing efforts towards the management and relationship challenges, the pay equity challenges, and certainly the working condition challenges. Mr. Speaker, to go back, we don't seem to spend the time about finding out why the frustrations are there with the management challenges. No, we just assume everything's good, and if you hire the guy from Regina to go through it, well, heck, he'll hear what he's paid for to hear. He's hired by senior management to look at the system. Well, he's not going to be as critical on the system as one would think. Mr. Speaker, pay equity. Often we hear about retention. Oh my goodness.
River North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member is speaking about an identifiable individual who is not in the chamber to defend himself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from River North. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the Premier is now identifying him. I said you can hire someone from Regina. We have had many people in this House reference who he is, so if we want to get specifics, we can name him, but we're not here to name people. Particularly, I think it's a far stretch, and we can't keep talking about these people and pretend they don't exist. It's a reference, and that's the point. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Yonge Centre. Colleagues, it was a very close line. Please let's not do semantics and saying could be, where, shoulda, woulda. Let's be very respectful of our people in the public service. At this point in time, there is no point of order, but I appreciate us making sure we're aware of this situation. Member from Yonge Centre, please conclude back to your statement, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the the chance to finish, uninterrupted hopefully. That said, Mr. Speaker, we should be talking about ratios. MIT did a review years ago I seem to read, which was we're not computers, we're people, which is you can only challenge and stress the system so much, whereas in nursing ratios ask the question, can we allow our teams to focus in a reasonable and balanced way? Mr. Speaker, I'll end with this because I don't have enough time to finish my statement. I'll say you can only work the system to the bone and expect best results. But if you work the system to the bone, all you're going to get is a bony system, and nobody wants that, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife Centre. Member statements. Member from Hay River South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Saturday, tomorrow, the community of Hay River will be hosting its annual Lobster Do. It's a much anticipated event in Hay River. It's an opportunity for the community to get together after a long, cold winter. It's one of our first big annual events. I would like to take a moment to thank all the volunteers, as much of the people that are going. It takes that amount of people, of volunteers in the background to host this event, preparing and cooking hundreds and hundreds of lobsters for the community that go. It is sold out, so that's a good thing. Hopefully there's a few Yellowknifers that decided to skip across the lake to the sunny side and take in the event. I would also like to mention that a lot of the funds from this event go to community functions, so it's a community event that raises money for the community. Although I won't be there this weekend, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to wish them a very successful fun event for this Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Hay River South. One of these years, I hopefully get there. Member statements. Colleagues, on Monday, my member statements will be about 3 amazing young ladies from Fort Simpson who are giving back to their community. Today, I'd like to talk about a couple of other amazing people from the community of Fort Liard. Rosalind Firth and her husband returned to the community to help the hamlet of Fort Liard. Rosalind took on the role of help running the community's recreation and youth department. One of her main goals were to help train a local person to take over. I'm proud to say, as of April 1st, 2025, Holly Fantaz is the Manager of Recreation and Youth Programs for the hamlet of Fort Liard. I'd like to thank Rosalind for coming back to the community and providing Holly the support and encouragement she needed. Holly lived her whole life in Fort Liard and graduated from Echo Denny School in 2019. She was a member of the Liard Giant soccer team for 8 years and attended many soccer competitions in the Detroit region and beyond. She traveled to Spain with a group of Liard soccer players in 2017, a trip that took them around Spain and to the soccer stadium of Barcelona. I'm proud to say that I had the pleasure of knowing this young lady since 2011. I witnessed her from her being a member of the community soccer program. I can tell you she's always a leader and encourage others to do their best. It was not about winning for her, it was about doing their best on and off the soccer pitch. I personally felt that she would be great in whatever career she would choose. I may be a bit biased, but I'm glad, when I heard that she decided to enter the field of recreation, I was very excited. Holly completed the Recreation Northern Leadership and Recreation Northern Recreation Management courses within 14 months in 2014. Or 2024 and 2025, and she was an outstanding student. She completed her Indigenous Sports Circle training module, mental health first aid for supporting youth, and her SEED diploma for grassroots Canada soccer in 2024-2025. Holly is a very capable young woman and no doubt has a long and successful career ahead of her. Liard is fortunate to have her on board, and I'd like to wish her all the best. Member statements. Member statements. Returns to oral questions. Returns to oral questions. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from Yellowknife.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize one of our pages who's just left the room a second ago. Sam McKay is Yellowknife North constituent, and I want to thank all the other pages as well here today from St. Pat's High School, which is also in my riding. And I believe Sam's parents were up in the bleachers a few minutes ago, but are no longer, but wanted to welcome Bill McKay and Sarah Flaherty to the House as well. Thanks for being here and for being Sam's parents.
Thank you, member from Hay River North. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to welcome our guests from the Auditor General's Office, Mr. Jerry DeMarco, Ms. Carrie Agnew, and Ms. Emiliane Duval. It's great to have their assistance at the Standing Committee of Public Accounts. We have a wonderful meeting with them last night, and we look forward to seeing them again soon. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Member from Yellowknife South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to have a representative from Yellowknife South acting as a page this week. Naya Nichols is a student at St. Pat's, and thank you for your service this week.
Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. If we missed anyone in the gallery today, welcome to your chamber. I hope you are enjoying the proceedings. It is always nice to see people in the gallery, and I'd like to thank you for allowing us to represent the people of the Northwest Territories. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Acknowledgements. Acknowledgements. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I won't be asking questions regarding ratios because my colleague, Ms. from Great Slave, had raised it the other day, and it seems like it's moving forward. But I'll focus in on the administration process and the analysis. Mr. Speaker, during a public committee hearing, one of the questions I had that never got answered was, our healthcare czar is traveling far, wide, and whatnot, up and down, wherever, and from wherever, apparently, that causes issues per individuals, but I'll recognize that. That despite that they're a publicly appointed administrator, I would like the schedule published as to who they've spoken to, when they've spoken to them, and where they're going. Because it's very important that Northerners see what's being done and also feel what's being done. So is the minister able to publicize their schedule? Thank you.
From Yellowknife Centre. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I would like to ask that this House respect that the public administrator's position is the public administrator, and that we honor that. We don't, we don't call each other names in here, and we shouldn't call people that we have working for us different terms.
Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you. I believe the member for. Well, the minister is calling me, or implying in some way that I'm implying some type of negative implications or describing me in a negative way, that I'm implying something terrible. And I take offense to that. I don't have my book here to quote the actual infraction number, but it feels as if there's some type of motive, false motives being implied. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife Centre. Member from Nuvik Twin Lakes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm just asking that, I'm not saying that it's negative. I am saying that it's the respect that we all in this House do with each other as titles. That is the respect that I'm asking. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was quite clear that I'm calling someone names, was her statement. That said, I wasn't calling anyone names. As a matter of fact, and I thank you for the opportunity to do this, which is, as quoted, in the realm of healthcare and government, a czar is an informal term used to describe a high-level official usually appointed to address a specific issue or crisis. The term is often applied to individuals, boards, authority to tackle complex problems in a particular field. As if anything, Mr. Speaker, it's an incredible accolation of respect for the expertise the appointed individual has been given and tasked with for a certain period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife Centre. Colleagues, I've asked you, I'm going to ask you again. Let's not be in semantics with words and that. When you answer the questions or ask the questions, please let's be respectful. Members of the public that work for us need to be understand that they are treated with the respect and dignity that we have. So I would ask the minister, though, to please apologize if for the impugning, or apologize to, or remove your, withdraw your comments on that one. Just withdraw your comments, please, and thank you.
I withdraw my comments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Minister. Minister, back to the question, please, and thank you. The question was to you. Okay, well, again. Member from Yellowknife Centre, please ask.
Mr. Speaker, the question was surrounded around publicizing the schedule, who they've met with, who they intend to meet with. Thank you.
Member from Yellowknife Centre, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I committed in Standing Committee and the Public Standing Committee, we will, as the public meetings of the Public Administrator, we will release those publicly. Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
The Public Administrator, Mr. Speaker, has been appointed, I believe, if I could remember, for about 5 months. Mr. Speaker, they have a one-year contract. So what does "we will do this" mean? We've already had 5 months of water behind us, very little in front of us. Can we get some timelines as to when you're going to publicize this information? Thank you.
From Yellowknife Centre, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've shared the last meeting, that was this week, with the members, and we are working on the next couple of Regional Wellness Council chairs as the Minister, or as the Public Administrator, is traveling through all the regions, attending, visiting the health centres, working with staff, meeting with the Regional Wellness Councils in camera, and then meeting and listening to the public as they bring forward their issues to these Regional Wellness Council meetings. So as those meetings are scheduled, as those are in control of the Regional Wellness Councils, that is when we will publish them and we'll release them to the members. Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of grave concern that gets asked of me is how many days have they spent here in the North in their 5-month contract thus far? Will the minister answer that question or provide it publicly? Thank you.
Member from Yellowknife Centre, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Public Administrator is working full-time. They're traveling around throughout the territories. I'm not going to release publicly where he is at every given moment. I don't keep track of that. He's got a responsibility to work full-time and report back to me, and as long as the objectives are being met, and I'm meeting with them regularly, weekly, myself, then and I will ensure that the work is continuing and that there's changes that are happening. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our kids need access to sport, and this is yet another problem that's not being resolved by the Fort Simpson education system. Today, I've been told that there are 3 Indigenous kids, 1 kid with disabilities, that are not allowed to go to the track and field meet because they need their school to sign off on their bus. The Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment has told the District Education Association that she was going to look into this decision. So what has she found? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Range Lake, Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is true I am dealing with this at the moment, and as soon as I have a resolution, I will be in touch with the Chair of the District Education Authority. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment. Member from Range Lake.
Mr. Speaker, the deadline for these kids to get on the bus is 3 p.m. today. Will the minister have a resolution before that deadline? Thank you.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm currently working on this with the department. I also have slightly different information than what the member is referring to on the floor of this House, but I can assure the member that I'm following up. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture, and Employment. Final supplementary, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the information comes to me from the parents. So can the minister explain what counter information she received, what different evidence is before us? I just want to know. I think the parents want to know as well. This is very concerning for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Range Lake, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I understand that the families want to be able to bring their own children to the track meet, not to get on the bus. Thank you.
To Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you to my colleagues for dealing with my consistent leaky eyeballs. Will the Premier acknowledge that the evacuation did not go right on many fronts, as outlined in the after-action review, and apologize to residents of the Northwest Territories? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave, Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member spoke about the collective trauma that we all experienced, and I agree. That is something that, as a territory, we have to come to grips with. The other day, I was thinking that, boy, this is the best time of year. It was, early May, it was spring, and I just it felt like a punch in the gut because the last few years, they haven't been great. It's been a really tough time, and I acknowledge that. And to the member's question about the evacuation, I want to note there was evacuations. There was 12 communities evacuated a total of 14 times. So this is not just a Yellowknife evacuation issue. This was an issue around the Northwest Territories. And obviously, things did not go as there were many areas where things didn't go well. I've been saying that since I stood up in this House and ran for Premier. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get into this House and into this role, is to address the deficiencies that I saw, that I experienced during that evacuation. And so that is the work that began on day one when we formed government. And with this after-action review, we're going to make sure that we are implementing the recommendations based on the review that we're doing of that report, because we want to make sure that what we saw, the deficiencies that happened, don't happen again. And so, this is something that happened in the past years ago, and I'm sorry to those residents who had, terrible experiences. Many of us had bad experiences, Mr. Speaker. We're all coming to terms with it. I was an evacuee. My colleague from Hay River was a first responder. And so, we had completely different experiences. And there's unique experiences across the territory. Some people, was no big deal for them. Other people, it was devastating for them. And I feel for them, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Premier. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the Premier for that. And please let it be known that I never meant to minimize the fact that there were multiple evacuations. I use evacuation as a singular as to cover the entire year. And yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will the Premier make a point that in the GNWT's response to the after-action review to also address that healing needs to occur in the public service to demonstrate that leadership supports them in tangible ways? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave, Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I've gone over the recommendations in the review. In time, the GNWT will be putting forward a response, and I do recognize that healing needs to occur. There has been reach out in the past from senior management to staff, but there needs to be ongoing support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Final supplementary, member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yeah, I recognize that's a thorny issue. I'm just asking for some tangible ways that the Premier can address that and address specifically to the public service who feel kind of hollow with the responses thus far. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave, Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's no easy fix to this situation. There's some people in the public service who are, are really emotionally scarred from this. And I hear the stories from across the public service of the work that was done, heroic efforts. You might not have been on the front lines, you might have been in an office, you might have been in a hotel room with 3 kids and 2 dogs. It doesn't mean your efforts weren't heroic. So I completely recognize that, and I appreciate the work done by the public service during an unprecedented time. It's clear that we were not prepared for a disaster on the scale of which we've never seen in the Northwest Territories. We don't have a standing army to respond to these things. What we're doing now is we're taking steps to ensure that we don't put public servants in those positions again. We're making sure that people know what their roles are, that we can all work together in a coordinated fashion as government, with community governments and with Indigenous governments, to ensure that next time something like this happens, we will be better prepared and everyone will feel more supported. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Premier. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Minister responsible for the Public Utilities Board. So on April 16th, the Minister sent directives to the Public Utilities Board on 11 kinds of policy changes that need to be made to allow for the growth of renewable energy generation in the Territory. The Minister stated in a subsequent letter to the Government Operations Committee that it's expected to take 5 years before the policies are fully in effect. But it's hard to see how we can achieve the goals in our 2030 energy strategy if we don't even have policies in place before then. So my first question, with regard to the first directive around integrated power system planning, which is incredibly fundamental, can the Minister clarify whether it's expected to take 5 years before the power system planning can even begin? Or when can we expect to have a plan for an integrated power system? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Yellowknife North. Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
PUB. Same person.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, yeah, I guess the thing here is we're doing the integrated plan, a system plan, to ensure that we have the right mixture of power to meet the demands of our system. The work has already been happening. It's already begun. So, it's not a wait 5 years. We're planning to have our goal of 2050. We're already working on this system. We're not. It's not just starting right now. The full plan will take some time to complete. It's not a prerequisite for implementing the other policy directives. The plan will consider the impacts to those directives and support the long-term energy security, affordability, and sustainability of the Northwest Territories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for PUB. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, as the Minister alluded, work has already begun, and in fact, the GNBT has already commissioned 4 independent analyses and completed extensive research. So, couldn't the Public Utilities Board simply use the existing research to speed up its policy development, or does the PUB have to start all over again with its own research? Can the Minister clarify? Thank you.
Yellowknife North. Minister responsible for Public Utilities Board.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The JNWT has commissioned several technical studies. The PUB has directed the use of existing studies also. We're not just putting them on the shelf, so we're using them. The PUB established its own process of implementing each directive. For example, while the GNWT has directed the PUB to establish an independent power producer policy, the exact design will be based on evidence and consultation through the PUB process. So the PUB can commission additional studies if needed, but it's been using existing ones also. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Public Utilities Board. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I wonder if the Minister could provide us with a revised timeline that's sooner than within 5 years, and perhaps even prioritize some of the directives to be completed sooner, especially the ones communities have been asking for, such as the policy on independent power producers or the overly restrictive cap on community generation of renewable energy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
North. Minister responsible for Public Utilities Board.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the structure of our directives allow for a phased or prioritized rollout. That said, it's up to the PUB to determine the process and timelines for the implementation. So we're recognizing the strong community interest of these changes, and the PUB is expected to consider that as it sets its priorities. The GNWT's role is to provide direction. The PUB is responsible for executing the way that is informed and align how our utilities operate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister responsible for Public Utilities Board. Oral questions. Member from Nuvik-Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following up on my member's statement, can the minister confirm how many, my questions are for the Minister of Health. Can the minister confirm how many NWT residents are currently registered for the new extended health benefits, and can she provide a regional breakdown by income band of all approved applicants, both seniors and non-seniors, so members can see where there may be pockets of residents that may need additional support to register? Thank you.
From Nuvik-Boot Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as of the end of April, we have 894 non-senior residents approved. We have 3,671 seniors approved. Of those non-senior, 461 were formerly on the specified disease condition program. So right now we have 433 brand new registrants. What I can do is get our enrollment database to record, they do record the client's region, so I can share that information with the member once we have all of that information compiled. Thank you.
Social Services. Member from Nuvik-Boot Lake.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for that, and we'll get into the financial impacts of that maybe at another day. But so I understand that seniors are automatically renewed, but other beneficiaries must reapply every year. What reminder systems or supports are in place to ensure that non-senior residents re-register on time so that they do not experience an interruption in their coverage, Mr. Speaker?
Member from Nuvik-Boot Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate this question. Yes, and non-seniors, because there isn't no income threshold on, seniors, there's no income threshold, so those just automatically renew every year. Because the extended health program is based on income, there is an annual CRA that needs to be added to their application. However, I've directed my department to put in clearer processes as we're hearing this, that there's vacancies or there's gaps in people that are applying. So we'll take that back and we'll look at how we can streamline that process better, or to ensure that the information is getting out soon enough to the to NWT residents so that they apply early enough. Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from Nuvik-Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister. And I think that's crucial. It was alarming, the number of people that weren't aware they had to register for the program. So I'm glad to hear that, and we'll keep an eye on that as we move forward. Mr. Speaker, as part of the work to modernize the medical travel, has the Minister given any consideration to folding the medical travel policy, if possible, into the extended health benefits framework? Is that something that's doable and something she's considering? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Nuvik-Boot Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the member has said, we are modernizing the medical travel, and we will be reviewing the extended health benefits in this next few months. I think it's 1 year from time, so we'll start the review in September. And yes, that the medical travel benefits were applied across the board for those specific disease, but now that's been removed and they have to use the medical travel policy. So there is lots of different pieces going on, but with the review of the medical travel modernization, I believe that we will flag, I have flagged this because it has come up to, so we'll continue to work with the department to provide some model options so that we can bring that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member for Moffley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, We all need an elder in our lives. Sounds like we need one in here. With that in mind, Mr. Speaker, the Elders in School program was started in 2013. Can the minister say how many schools across the territory currently employ an elder for this program? Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't have a specific number for that program, but we have multiple programs across the territory that create space for elders within our school system. The member's absolutely right. The power of elders is absolutely undeniable and one that we have the privilege of experiencing in this House. Some of the programs that I'd be happy to talk more about are the Elders for Indigenous Languages programs, our school-based mental health and wellness program, our community focus from the Indigenous Languages Secretariat, as well as our school food program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Education, Culture, Employment. Member from Mophly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I understand there is an elders in the classroom component. Can the minister explain whether the elders are teaching as part of this program and how the program works? Thank you.
Member from Mophly. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, absolutely. Elders are always teaching when they are anywhere in our communities. A lot of the programs center around language revitalization and on-the-land experiences and cultural experiences for students across the Northwest Territories. And even when elders are in a health and wellness role within the school, they're still teaching at that point. So teaching is a key component in imparting knowledge and experience to our youth. Thank you.
For Education, Culture and Employment. Final supplementary. Member from Mophly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it has been over a decade since this program was implemented. Can the minister commit to a formal evaluation of the Elders in School program and provide information to the House about its continued funding and any support needed for its further implementation? Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to follow up with the department on that specific program, but over the years, additional programs have come into play that have created more space for elders in schools. Our school food program is just new this year in 2025. The transition to the school-based mental health and wellness program where elders could be hired, that's brand new as of 2024. So some of these programs are actually quite recent. Thank you.
Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm just referring back to my recurring question that I bring up every session on the targeted amendments to the waters regs. Mr. Speaker, the last time I asked the Minister of Environment and Climate Change about that, he mentioned that he would have a concrete plan available for members in the spring. I'm just asking the Minister for an update on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member from Frame Lake. Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to stand up today and appreciate the members' thoroughness of returning with the question on a regular basis. I think this is an area that is very integral to the Northwest Territories and our ability to move things forward in a collaborative manner. We're still, department is still committed to the phased approach for the amendments and the changes to the Waters Act, with phase 1 being limited to the targeted amendments, and that work is well underway. And phase 2 being the more comprehensive review, which will happen once the amendments are complete, and then we would go back to phase 3 if required, depending on the changes to the Act itself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Environment and Climate Change. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the minister laying out the general plan, but I didn't hear any new information in there. What I was looking for is, does the minister have a timeline for us? Again and again, I've emphasized that I'd like to see this proceed quickly. The whole idea with doing targeted amendments was that could proceed quickly. Does the minister have a timeline for us for this process today? Thank you.
Frame Lake. Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ECC is following the stepped approach outlined in the Legislative Developmental Protocol and that is agreed to with the Intergovernmental Council. There's been several meetings to date. The most recent meeting of the Technical Working Group happened actually earlier this week, and progress is certainly being made. Now, as the Minister of ECC, I can't directly lay out when this is going to be completed. This is a collaborative effort. It involves Indigenous governments, Indigenous organizations, the water boards, etc. So, ensuring that we all have the capacity and the ability to move this forward in a timely manner has certainly been a priority, and we continue to that end. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Member for Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I appreciate the Minister emphasizing the nature of the process, that it's a collaborative one. I would respectfully suggest back that they collaboratively come together and develop a timeline. So can the Minister commit to bringing a timeline back to the Assembly in a reasonable time? Thank you.
Frame Lake. Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I previously stated, as the Minister, I cannot make a commitment to being able to provide a concrete timeline. I'm certainly happy to go back to the department and have a chat with our folks at the officials level and try and get a more focused projection of when things can be wrapped up on this file. I know we're committed, as well as the Indigenous governments and the boards are very committed to getting this work done. There are many things that were identified by the Land and Water Boards that we're trying to address. We're working on addressing through this process. Clarifying water usage for ice bridges would be an example that's sort of top of my list, but many areas, and we are certainly committed to expediting this as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Oral questions. Member from Techo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Health and Social Services explain health promotion campaigns that are in place in my riding and outline how these have been evaluated for effectiveness? Thank you.
From the Techo. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the community health representative in the regions, along with the regional regional wellness councils, the staff within that community. We don't audit what they do because the health promotion activities are driven from the community that they represent, and so we don't want to set things in motion that necessarily are dictated by somebody that's sitting somewhere in a region or in the capital, especially in the small communities. So we encourage that autonomy in those communities. So if there are CHRs in those communities, they can work within the community, they can see what's going on in the community, and then they can use the tools that we have developed within the Health and Social Services, Public Health, the Office of the Chief Public Health Officer, many of those things, and if they're having issues, then they should raise those issues with their COOs, so that way, then we know how to support them to get the information to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Techo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What formats such as radio, pamphlets, posters are used in health promotion campaigns to target different demographics such as youth and elders? Thank you.
From the Techo. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate that question. And again, as I've traveled through, and I'll take an example in Fort McPherson, because I know they're very active on their radio. So any member can go in, and Sigachik, the CHR, goes on the radio and talks about things that the community that she's seeing, you know, and stuff like that. So any CHR with the information that they have that support, you know, that we can provide to them if they need more information from the NTHSSA or within the department, you know, to raise that, you know, recently, and thank you to the MLA as well, is highlighting the need for some education on toxic drugs, and that is now publicly on the website so that any CHR can use that information to do community presentations, and again, it's encouraged that they are autonomous to be able to do the things that they're needed in their community in all kinds of means. Thank you.
Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Decho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister, what areas of health promotion are prioritized in small communities? Thank you.
From the Decho. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, there are, you know, it's based on the community again, but there are CHRs that are more comfortable doing different age groups, and so you know, sometimes you'll see CHRs that might be more comfortable being in the schools or working with elders and less comfortable talking about sexually, you know, transmitted diseases. But those are things that if the community is needing those things, they should raise them within, you know, with the CHR, with the health center that they live in, with the regional wellness councils. There's members throughout all of our communities, and then that way the community can develop and support what needs to be done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Tune-a-Day-Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. NIHB is a federal program. The GNWT Health Department can the minister explain what the rules make it difficult for eligible NWT residents to access NHIB when they are sick or injured outside the NWT? And does she provide this feedback to the federal government as well? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Tune-a-Day-Willity, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for raising this issue. This issue has come up with residents who are using the non-insured health benefits program. The non-insured health benefits program, as you said, is a federal program, so we, on behalf of the federal government, administer parts of their program. Part of the program that we do administer is supporting First Nations and Inuit with medical travel when it's beginning from the Northwest Territories out. And then there's a process that gets an approval for escorts through that same process when they're leaving the territory, as if there is a medical need to leave the territory. The issue that the member is raising, and this has been raised in the House, is when people leave the Northwest Territories and they go into another province or territory, every province and territory has a different agreement with the federal government. Some provinces may not even administer medical non-insured health benefits, and therefore individuals who have status numbers or Inuit N numbers have to deal directly with NIHB and their office, you know, their federal office. So when they're leaving, it's very complicated. We try our best to ensure that our staff are very familiar, but I am raising this at every point in every issue, and I'm actually working on because now we have an Indigenous federal minister, and you know, my hope is that she has the struggles that we all had with NIHB as an Indigenous person from a smaller community, that we will be able to have more fulsome conversations as the understanding of the greater necessity that it should be being able to, wherever you are, to access NIHB across Canada, that you get the same type of benefits. And so we are continuing to work. I am continuing to push that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Tune-a-Day-Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My understanding that medical travel processes NIHB application And since the medical travel program modernization is underway, will the new medical travel program include ways of making NIHB more accessible? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Trinity Willoughby, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to first, I want to say yes, that is part of the process. The second piece that I just want to explain a little bit more is that one of the things that we struggle with, and this is what usually ends up being the biggest issue that comes to my office when it is an NIHB client, is when the escort is being requested as an exception because it doesn't meet the criteria that the federal government lays out for a non-medical escort, is that we don't have the authority to approve that exception. That exception has to be sent to the federal government, and our staff have to wait on that approval. And they do not work, around the clock like our staff do from 7 to 11, 7 days a week. Our medical travel staff work. They work the regular office hours in Ottawa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from Trinity Willoughby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the short term, will the minister work closely with MLAs to sort out constituents who are struggling with NIHB application when flag these issues to her office so we can solve the problem faster? Also, Mr. Speaker, is that proper posting and also medical travel insurance is much needed. Can you maybe help explain that or to your constituents? Thank you.
Member from Trinity Willoughby, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think when this issue comes up, what I can say is I am always willing to work with members when they bring these issues forward, and I think my office has, even on weekends and everything, has tried to ensure that they are doing their due diligence to turn this issue around. However, sometimes when it's out of our control because it's in a different jurisdiction, then we have no leverage on if they're in a different province. So that means that they have to access the services in that province if they've traveled there on their own. And that's why I think this is important for everybody in the Northwest Territories, especially those who tend to just, weekend trips. And I know I've said this in the House before, but getting medical travel insurance through, there's banks and different ways that you can get it. Some credit cards have them. It is vital, so that way when you have peace of mind when you're traveling, if you get sick, there's things in those travel things that will help you and support your family while you're there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Yonley Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I too am going to join on the question regarding the DEAs in Fort Simpson and the DDEC in the region, Mr. Speaker. So for those listening, Mr. Speaker, just to clarify, of course, this problem applies equally across the NWT to all elected authorities and councils. So it isn't just a Fort Simpson issue, it's a Yellowknife issue, it's a Smith issue, it's a Trinity issue, it's a territory issue. So, Mr. Speaker, my question here, to be very focused here, is strictly built around this simple premise and clarification that's needed. The elected officials and the community are telling me they feel like a puppet advisory board and feel they are not in charge of their one employee, and as such, there's great confusion. So in other words, this is leaving everyone wondering, are they a management board or an advisory board, which ultimately is run and controlled by EC&E? Would the minister clarify what the elected people for the people on these boards is really doing there? Thank you.
From the Yonley Centre, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our district education authorities and our district education councils do have a governance role within the Northwest Territories. We do have a decentralized system. The governance roles within those boards are setting mission, vision, goals, objectives, developing and reviewing policies, procedures, providing guidance and direction to administration, developing strategic plans, monitoring and evaluating implementation plans and procedures, allocating funds and resources, training members, ensuring effective risk management policies are in place, making sure federal, territorial, municipal laws are followed, hire supervisors and evaluates the superintendent. That's the role of the DECs. And there is quite a lengthy manual and that does review roles, responsibilities of these DECs and DEAs. And yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Mr. Speaker, governance roles is not necessarily authority roles. So my question now is, can EC&E or is it the superintendent dissolve the boards when they don't like what they want to hear or don't like what the DEC or other types of councils and advisory board want to say to them? Thank you.
Member from Yellowknife Centre. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, superintendents do not have the authority to dissolve a DEA or a DEC. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I have heard from words in the community, so I'm going to thread this needle carefully, of course, that there's concerns that the board may be dissolved or the authority may be dissolved based on the fact that they don't like the position the board has taken. Mr. Speaker, is the department putting pressure through the superintendent with this particular position? And if the board wanted to address the superintendent, who's really in charge? Is it EC&E or is it the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife Centre. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there was two questions there. So to the first question, the answer is no. To the second question, who is in charge? So the DEC has the responsibility of hiring and selecting and working with the superintendent. And within the legislation, there is also a concert, and it works in concert with our Public Service Act and the collective agreement under the NWTTA. So that's an important thing to consider there as well, is that there are considerations under that too. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. A member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier today, we heard the Minister of ITI give an update on work towards increasing labour mobility, but my questions are actually for the Minister of Health and Social Services on a similar topic. So our Medical Professions Act allows us to register and license physicians in the NWT so they can practice medicine here, either they're living here or they work here as locums, but there are some barriers that unnecessarily prevent some doctors coming from elsewhere from being able to work here, particularly specialists. So the first question is around, so the NWT requires a specialist physician to have a Royal College exam and designation, whereas this is not required in some other jurisdictions such as Alberta or Ontario. So is the minister looking at changing our requirements so that we're more in line with other jurisdictions so we can welcome more specialist doctors currently working in other provinces to be able to work here too? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate this question. Within the last week, we've been talking a lot about myself and with the leadership of the, both the department and the NTHSSA on the struggles that we're hearing, not just from physicians, from MLAs that have raised issues on behalf of them. Locums have brought forward to the senior physicians, like the territorial medical director. And so what we're looking at is we're finding that the general practitioners, you know, when they get their 2 letter of reference and they've got their letter of good standing, that process takes about 2 to 3 days, and then that was that is kind of where we ended. And then most recently the issue of this came up, so I did follow up with the department, and that it was something that was done, and then it was waived for a while, and then it was put back, and I think right now it is, under my understanding, is that this will be waived again. So hopefully that will help streamline to be in line with the rest of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Yellowknife North.
Okay, that's great news. Thanks to the Minister for that. Is there other changes that the department is working on to the Medical Professions Act that would further reduce barriers to labour mobility, and what are the timelines on those kinds of changes? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yellowknife North, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is actually a lot of work going on at the national level, and so there is, at the health minister meetings, this was a hot topic of all ministers, that we all raised this issue that there needed to be more the physicians to be able to move freely within the Northwest or within Canada, so that way that they could assist in other areas when needed a lot more easily. So where we are right now is, with the new health minister, I'm hoping that I'll be able, as I said, we're planning meetings with the new ministers. One session has concluded, that we will, and this will be on the radar as to what the topics, what are the highlights of the new Minister of Health, and bringing forward this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the Premier's sessional statement, he celebrated the new emergency room plan as being co-developed, and yet I hear very different from the front line. The Minister of Health and Social Services explained what went into the co-development. Was it sitting down with doctors, nurses, and other staffs to figure out what it needs, like an interest-based negotiation, and build a cohesive plan, or was it we listened to the presentation to the standing committee from the doctors and we implemented their recommendations? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Mr. Premier. Sorry, Minister of Health and Social Services. Sorry about that. Oh, sorry. Can you repeat the question, member from Range Lake?
Yes, thank you. My apologies. It was in the Premier's sessional statement, but it is the responsibility of the Minister of Health and Social Services. Will she explain to the House how she co-developed the ER plan with staff, doctors, nurses, everyone else who works to support the emergency department? Thank you.
Member from Range Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From what the information that I have on file is that this was work of the working group, the emergency room working group that initiated and recommended these changes, so that we would change from 4 physicians working throughout the day versus the 3 physicians plus a general practitioner, which would help because of the specialization of the emergency room specialty, that this will help, flow of patients. And it would also, from the understanding from the working group, that this could help promote recruitment and retention in the emergency department for physicians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And Social Services, member from Range Lake.
Thank you. Well, I hope it does, because adding a shift without the doctors to fill it seems to be a problem here. Mr. Speaker, are all the shifts, there's 4 shifts in the ER now, are all the shifts currently scheduled and covered through June to August of this year? Thank you.
Range Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the information up until June, and what I have until June is the shifts are covered. So I don't have the other information, so I can get back to the members with that information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I can get ahead of the minister on this one. I do have some of the information till August. I recognize it's still being developed, but at least 22 days have only 1 doctor, and there are 4 days with 0 doctors. So how is the minister assessing whether or not this new program, this new thing is actually working? Because these new shifts are not filling up. So what is she going to do to fill these shifts urgently? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Range Lake, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I would like to say is that with the new locum rates that are being we are already getting an uptake of people contacting to come to work. And so the OMAC, the Office of Medical Credentialing, is working with those and working with NTHSSA as well as Hay River Health Authority to look at their staffing levels. within the health authority, and a lot of times staffing schedules are done in increments, and this is something that is not new. And so as we get locums, you know, people apply and then we fill up the positions, and usually even in nursing, like some nursing in the past would be on a 6-week schedule. So there would be nothing after that 6-week schedule until 2 weeks before when that schedule is done. That is all there's different scheduling that has been put in place and so with physicians, what we do is we go as far as a month or two, and then we fill them as we need, because historically the Northwest Territories has been around 50% physicians, so we rely a lot on locum physicians, and that's not new to this territory as well. This has been happening in the whole 20-some years that I've been part of the system, and so as we continue to recruit, this keeps going, we'll fill those. Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Decho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Health and Social Services. Further to my colleagues' questions, is there a mechanism or a thought of the Department of Health and Social Services to work with other jurisdictions to create a cross-border agreement with other provinces and territories to ensure residents get care when and where, and can be transported home if needed? And this is looking at a new way to do business to support our residents that may need emergency travel or emergency health care in other jurisdictions if needed. Thank you.
From the Decho, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned previously, that NIHB is done differently in every region, and what I mean differently is that even in Nunatsiavut, they have drawn down, with their Indigenous government, has drawn down to implement the NIHB, administer the administration. So even and I raised this even with Newfoundland health minister, that they don't even deal with it because it's dealt with their Indigenous government. So every jurisdiction is different. BC has a First Nation health, and that's who administers. And so if you're Inuit in BC, you have to go through another jurisdiction because they don't, so there's so much complexity because it's a federal program that it relies on people having to just access it through the federal jurisdiction in Ottawa, or they can, if their province or territory has drawn it down, that they access it through their province first. So when our residents leave the Northwest Territories, we administer it, so we take care of all of the stuff in the background. When they leave the territory, they have to do all of the coordinating themselves because we don't coordinate with that. So I can flag that for the Minister of ISK as how it's being done across Canada and how it impacts our residents when I do get a chance to meet with them. Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from the Decho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that, we know every jurisdiction is different, and doing business a different way and a new way is different too. So will the minister consider this, looking at doing it a little different, being the voice for the North and creating something different that might work for the residents of the Northwest Territories? Thank you.
Decho, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm not wanting to paraphrase, but I've heard from enough people since being the minister that one of the issues is people do leave. Some people can't, that maybe they can't afford, or they don't know, and they don't get the travel insurance, and they get sick. I can raise this with the Minister of Indigenous Service Canada, who this program falls under, but as of the Northwest Territories, this program is funded by them, so we administer what we negotiate with them. So I can add this as something that could be looked at, but I can't commit that this would be something that they would do at this time. Thank you.
And Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Toonaday-Willity.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was a very long day for everybody, and especially myself. And Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Justice Minister. Will the Minister of Justice be brought up to speed and to look into the long decade of investigation to the death that occurred at St. Joseph School in Fort Resolution, and to go forward under the Coroner's Act and allow the Coroner's Office to support the Denikin First Nation in their investigation? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Toonaday-Willity, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. You know, I know this is a very sensitive subject, and, you know, the discovery of unmarked graves of former residential students is a deeply sensitive issue that we must approach with respect, dignity, empathy for the Indigenous communities involved and the families. You know, this is an area where, as an Indigenous person, my mother was a residential school survivor. I feel very deeply about this subject, and I am committed to working with everyone involved, the community, the member, the Department of Education, the Coroner's Office, to have a conversation about how we can advance this issue and find a resolution that meets the needs of all of the people of the Northwest Territories, the Indigenous governments, the families, really the families too, right? That's an important component here that we need to really keep top of mind. We have elders that are here interpreting for us that have generational connections to this issue. And we need to truly respect that within this House, but I will commit to working with the member and all of the parties involved to try and find, to work toward a resolution for this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. Member from Toonaday-Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Justice is that we're going to be here till next week, and we're pretty well done. But my question to the Minister is that if there's a way we could start working and reaching out to the Indigenous governments in Fort Resolution and the families and work together to see if we could try to come up with a date as to when we can meet and trying to look for a solution to this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Toonaday-Willity, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm totally committed to that. I have an open calendar this afternoon. I'd already scheduled a briefing on this topic with staff from the Department of Justice and ECC to get totally up to speed. I'm happy to put some time aside in my calendar this afternoon to meet with the member and any of his leadership that are interested in having that meeting. And again, I'll reiterate that I'm committed to working together with everyone that has an interest here in finding an expedited solution to advancing this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. Final supplementary. Member from Toonaday-Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my question to the Minister now that we're moving forward, we really need to modernize our legislation to fall in line with the UNDRIP, and that's very important, and all their legislation that's out there. So I look forward if we could get a commitment from the Minister to get this looked at in the next few months. Thank you.
Member from Toonaday-Willity. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think the Premier has made it very clear in all of our mandate letters that that is certainly a priority and part of how we plan on doing business. As a Premier and Cabinet, to ensure that we are respecting all of those decisions and applying the appropriate measures. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. Colleagues, time is up for oral questions. Oral questions. Oral questions. Written questions. Written questions. Returns to written questions. Return to written questions. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to the House to return to oral questions item number 7 onto the orders of the day. Thank you.
From Yellowknife Centre. Can I please finish my job? Are there any nays? Nay. Replies to the Commissioner's address. Replies to the Commissioner's address. Petitions. Petitions. Reports of committees on the review of bills. Reports of committees on review of bills. Reports on standing and special committees. Reports on standing special committees. Tabling of documents. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following 2 documents: supplementary estimates, infrastructure expenditures, number 1, 2025-2026, and supplementary estimates, operation expenditures, and borrowing authorization, number 1, 2025-2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Finance. Tabling of documents. Colleagues, I wish to table the report of the Office of the Auditor General of Canada on the protected and conserved areas of the Northwest Territories in accordance with Section 41 of the Northwest Territories Act. Pursuant to Section 21(3) of the Legislative Assembly and Executive Council Act, I hereby table the Legislative Assembly and Executive Council Act Schedule C Amendment to Regulations 2025. I hereby table an amendment to the Legislative Assembly and Executive Council's Act Indemnity, Allowance, and Expenses Regulations under Section 43 of the Legislative Assembly and Executive Councils Act. Tabling of documents. Tabling of documents. Notice of motion. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I give notice that on Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, I will move the following motion. Now, therefore, I move, seconded by the Honourable Member for Yellowknife South, that this Legislative Assembly direct the Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges to consider if the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly Members' Code of Conduct requires any amendments or updates regarding statements made online by members of the Legislative Assembly outside of our proceedings. And further, that the Standing Committee on Procedure and Privileges deliver a report to this House on the matter by February 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member from Great Slave. Notice of motions. Notice of motions. 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 Notice of motions for first reading of bills. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I give notice that on Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, I will present Bill 27, an act to amend the Protection Against Family Violence Act, to be read for the first time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
First read or notice of motions for first reading of bills. Notice of motion for first reading of bills. First reading of bills. Minister of Justice. Glenn.
Public Service Act.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to present Bill 26, an act to amend the Public Service Act, to be read for the first time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Yellowknife North. Pursuant to Rule 8.2(3), Bill 26 is deemed to have first reading and is ready for second reading. First reading of bills. First reading of bills. Second reading of bills. Second reading of bills. Consideration of Committee of the Whole of Bills and Other Matters, Bill 17, Bill 18, Table Documents 340 and 341, with the member from the chair of Toonie-Daywell, or member from Toonie-Daywell in the chair.
I now call the committee of the whole to order. What is the wish of the committee? I'm going to go to the member from Nuvie-Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the committee wishes to consider Bill 17, a Municipal and Community Affairs Statutes Amendment Act, as well as Bill 18, an act to amend the Partnership and Business Names Act. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Does committee agree? Thank you. We'll take a short break. Thank you. I'll call the meeting committee back to order. Consideration Committee of the Whole of Bills of Other Matters, Bill 17, Municipal and Community Affairs Statute Amendment Act. Committee, we have agreed to consider Bill 17, Municipal and Community Affairs Statute Amendment Act. I will ask the Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs to introduce the bill.
I'll put my notes over there. Thank you. My light's on? Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to present Bill 17, Municipal Community Affairs Statute Amendment Act. Bill 17 amends 3 acts, the Fire Prevention Act, 911 Act, and the Western Canadian Lotteries Act. The purpose of the bill is to adjust the reporting timelines required under the 3 acts to provide significant time for MACA to collect and validate the data from various sources to ensure accurate and comprehensive reporting. This bill amends the Fire Prevention Act reporting period for the Fire Marshal's report to the Minister to reflect the fiscal year and to have the report due to the Minister in September. Making these changes will provide the Office of the Fire Marshal more time to collect and validate the data from community governments. Additionally, this bill amends the 911 Act and the Western Canadian Lotteries Act to require each act's annual report to be tabled in the Legislative Assembly within 180 days of the end of the fiscal year. The amendments also allow the reports to be tabled during the next sitting of the Legislative Assembly. If the Legislative Assembly is not sitting on the required period, so these changes reflect the operational realities we face while maintaining our commitment to transparency to the public by aligning or reporting timelines with the practicalities of data collecting and validation. We ensure that our reports are both accurate and comprehensive. I look forward to hearing comments from the members and answering any questions they may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, would you like to bring witnesses into the chamber?
Yes, please.
Sergeant Arms, please escort the witnesses into the chamber. I will now turn to the Chair of the Standing Committee of Government. Sorry. Minister, please introduce your witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With me, I have Catherine Boyd, Director of Corporate Services, and Ryan Cepek, with Senior Legislation Advisor.
Okay, thank you. I will now turn to the Chair of the Standing Committee on Government Operation, the committee that reviewed the bill for any opening comments on Bill 17. And I will now open the floor to Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Bill 17, the Municipal and Community Affairs Statutes Amendment Act, received second reading in the Legislative Assembly on February 10th, 2025, and was referred to the Standing Committee on Government Operations for review. On April 22nd, 2025, the Standing Committee held a public hearing with the Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs and completed its clause-by-clause review of the bill. I thank the committee for their efforts in reviewing this legislation. Individual members, of course, may have additional comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to thank the member from Frame Lake. I'm going to open the. I will now turn to the. Thank you. I will now open the floor to general comments. Is there any general comments? Okay, seeing none, is the committee agreed? Is the committee agreed that there are no further general comments? Agreed. Can we proceed to clause by clause review of the bill? The committee will defer the bill number and title until after consideration of the clauses. Please turn to page 1 of the bill. Clause 1. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Clause 2. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Clause 3. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Returning to the bill's number and title. Bill 17, Municipal and Community First Statute. Amendment Act does not. Amendment Act. Does the committee agree? To the bills of a whole. Sorry. To the bills as a whole. Does the committee agree? Does the committee agree that the Bill 17 Municipal and Community Affairs Statute Amendment Act is now ready for a third reading? Does the committee agree? Does the committee agree that there concludes our consideration of Bill 17 Municipal and Community Affairs Statute Act? Does the committee agree? Thank you. Minister, thank you to your witnesses, and Sergeant Arms, please escort the witnesses into the chamber. Committee, we have agreed to consider Bill 18, an act to amend the Partnership and Business Name Act. I will ask the Minister of Justice to introduce the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am here today to present Bill 18, an act to amend the Partnership and Business Names Act. Bill 18 will address an error made during amendments to the Partnership and Business Name Act in 2015, stating that a suspension of registrations is required while a registration is under review. This was not the intent of the change from 2015. Instead of stating that a decision is stayed, the legislation should say that a decision is not stayed during the review period to avoid unreasonable and unpredictable delays in registering business names. In addition, Bill 18 makes the language used throughout the Act more gender inclusive. This concludes my opening remarks, and I would be pleased to answer any questions that members may have regarding Bill 18. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Does the Minister would like to bring witnesses into the chamber?
Yes, please.
Does the committee agree? Thank you. Sergeant Arms, please escort the witnesses into the chamber. Minister, please introduce your witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, today I have with me Brian Asmundson, Acting Director of Legal Registries with the Department of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now turn to the Chair of the Standing Committee on Government Operation, the committee that reviewed the bill. For any opening comments, I'm going to go to the member from Frame Lake.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Bill 18, an act to amend the Partnership and Business Name Act, received second reading in the Legislative Assembly on February 10th, 2025, and was referred to the Standing Committee on Government Operations for review. On April 22nd, 2025, a very busy day for committee, the Standing Committee held a public hearing with the Minister of Justice and completed its clause-by-clause review of the bill. I thank the committee for their efforts in reviewing this legislation, and of course, individual members may have additional comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will now open the floor to general comments on Bill 18. Is the committee agreed that there are no further general comments? Can we proceed to clause-by-clause review of the bill? Thank you. There are 37 clauses in the bill. Where possible, I will call clauses in groups of 5. Does the committee agree? Thank you. Committee, we will defer the bill number and title until after consideration of the clauses. Please turn to page 1 of the bill. Clause 1 to 5, does the committee agree? Clause 6 to 10, does the committee agree? Please turn to page 2 of the bill, clause 11 to 15. Does the committee agree? Clauses 16 to 20, does the committee agree? Please turn to page 3 of the bill, clauses 21 to 25. Does the committee agree? Please turn to page 4 of the bill, clauses 26 to 30. Does the committee agree? Please turn to page 5 of the bill, clauses 31 to 35. Does the committee agree? Clauses 36 to 37. Does the committee agree? Returning to the bill number entitled Bill 18, an act to amend the Partnership and Business Name Act. Does the committee agree? To the bill as a whole, does the committee agree? Does the committee agree that Bill 18, an act to amend the Partnership and Business Name Act, is now ready for third reading? Does the committee agree? Thank you. Does the committee agree that this concludes our consideration of Bill 18, an act to amend the Partnership and Business Name Act? Does the committee agree? Thank you. Minister, and thank you to, I want to thank the Minister and your witnesses. Sergeant Irons, please escort the witnesses from the chamber. What is the wish of the committee? I want to go to the member from Nunavut Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move the chair rise and report progress.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to report progress. The motion is in order and non-debatable. All those in favor? All those opposed? If carried, motion is carried. I will now rise and report progress. Thank you.
From Trinidad-Willity.
Mr. Speaker, your committee has been considering Bill 17 and Bill 18, and I would like to report. And Mr. Speaker, I move that the report of the committee of the whole be concurred with. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Trinidad-Willity.
Thank you. It's been a long day already. Mr. Speaker, again, your committee has been considering Bill 17 and Bill 18, and would like to report that 17 and 18 are ready for third reading. And Mr. Speaker, I move the report of the committee of the whole be concurred with. Thank you.
Member from Trinidad-Willity. Can I have a seconder? Let's go to the date show. Member from the date show. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Reports on the Committee of the Whole, reports on the Committee of the Whole, third reading of bills, orders of the day. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Comité permanent du développement économique et de l'environnement se réunira à la levée de la séance. Ordre du jour pour le lundi 26 mai 2025 à 13h30. Prière ou réflexion, déclaration de ministre, déclaration de député, réponse aux questions orales, question orale 666, présentation de visiteurs dans la tribune, remerciements, questions orales, questions écrites, réponse aux questions écrites, réponse au discours d'ouverture de la commissaire, pétition, rapport du comité à la suite de l'étude du projet de loi, rapport du comité permanent ou spéciaux, dépôt de documents, préavis de motion, motion 55-20, préavis de motion tendant à la première lecture du projet de loi, première lecture du projet de loi, deuxième lecture du projet de loi 26, étude en comité plénier des projets de loi et d'autres affaires, document 340-21, document 341-21, rapport du comité plénier, troisième lecture du projet de loi 17, projet de loi 18, ordre du jour. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This House stands adjourned until Monday, May 26, 2025 at 1:30 p.m.